I remember the fever starting on a Tuesday in late October, the kind of autumn day when the sky hangs low and gray, pressing against the windows like it wants inside. I was 27, living alone in a second-floor apartment above a laundromat that smelled perpetually of bleach and dryer sheets. My name is Elias, though no one had called me that in days. I'd been too busy coughing into pillows and pretending I wasn't dying. It began with a scratch in my throat, nothing dramatic. By evening, my skin felt too tight, like I'd been shrink-wrapped. I took my temperature, 102.4, and swallowed 2 ibuprofen with flat ginger ale. I told myself I'd sleep it off. Instead, I lay in the dark listening to the hum of the building's pipes and the occasional clatter of coins in the machines downstairs. My bedroom window faced an alley where a single street lamp flickered like it was on its last breath. That first night, the shadows were ordinary. The coat on the back of the door became a hunched figure when I squinted. The stack of unread books on the dresser turned into a small, watchful animal. I knew they were tricks of light and exhaustion, so I closed my eyes and let the fever pull me under. I woke at 3:17 a.m. with the certainty that someone was standing at the foot of my bed. The room was dim, lit only by the orange glow of the street lamp bleeding through the blinds. There was a shape tall, thin, darker than the dark around it. Not a silhouette against the wall, it had edges that didn't quite touch the floor. It didn't move. It simply existed, the way a hole exists in paper. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. I reached for the lamp, but my arm was lead. The shape tilted its head, or I thought it did. Then the fever dragged me back down. Morning came in smears of gray. I stumbled to the bathroom, pissed, drank water from the tap. My reflection looked like a stranger, eyes sunken, lips cracked. The thermometer read 103.8. I called in sick to work, voice rasping like sandpaper. My boss said, "Take care of yourself," and I laughed, a sound like tearing paper. I spent the day on the couch under a quilt my grandmother had made, the one with the uneven squares. The TV flickered with daytime talk shows I didn't watch. Every so often, I'd glance at the hallway and see movement where there shouldn't be any. A ripple, like heat above asphalt. I blamed the fever. I blamed dehydration. I blamed the NyQuil. By nightfall, the temperature climbed to 104.2. I couldn't keep water down. My skin burned, but my teeth chattered. I dragged myself to bed, leaving a trail of damp footprints on the hardwood. The apartment smelled of sweat and Vicks VapoRub. I left the bathroom light on, door cracked, a thin blade of yellow cutting across the floor. That's when the shadows started to speak. Not with words. With presence. The tall one returned, standing where the carpet met the tile. It had no face, but I felt it looking. Another shape peeled itself from the closet, a smaller thing, child-sized, with arms too long. It crouched, knees bending backward. I pulled the quilt over my head like I was 6 years old and monsters were real. I must have slept, because I dreamed of a hallway that stretched forever, lined with doors. Behind each door was a version of my apartment, but wrong. In one, the furniture floated. In another, the walls bled. The shadow figures followed me from room to room, never hurrying. When I woke, the quilt was on the floor and my t-shirt clung to me like wet paper. Day 3. Or 4. Time had become a slippery thing. I hadn't eaten since whenever. My phone was dead, I'd forgotten to charge it. The landlady knocked once, asking if I needed anything. I croaked, "I'm fine," and she left. Through the peephole, I watched her shuffle away, slippers scuffing. For a moment, her shadow on the wall had too many arms. I tried to stand and nearly blacked out. The room tilted, then righted itself. When my vision cleared, there were 3 of them. The tall one by the window, the child thing near the dresser, and a new one wide, squat, pulsing like a heart. It hovered over the bed, close enough that I smelled something metallic, like ozone after lightning. I screamed. Or tried to. It came out a wheeze. The squat one leaned closer. Its surface rippled, and for a second, I saw my own face reflected in it, distorted, mouth stretched too wide. Then it dissolved into smoke. I don't remember crawling to the bathroom, but I woke on the tile, cheek against cool porcelain. The mirror was fogged. Someone had written in the condensation, "Stay." The letters dripped like blood, though they were only water. I wiped them away with a trembling hand. My reflection stared back, eyes black in the dim light. Behind me, in the glass, the tall shadow stood in the doorway. I spun around, nothing there. I filled the tub with cold water and climbed in, clothes and all. The shock of it made me gasp. For a while, the shadows retreated. I stayed until my fingers pruned and the water turned lukewarm. When I got out, the apartment was silent except for the drip of the faucet. Drip. Drip. Like a clock counting down. Night again. Or still. I'd lost track. The fever had settled into a steady burn, 103.something. I lay on the couch with a bowl of ice cubes, pressing them to my wrists. The TV was off, I couldn't stand the voices. Moonlight sliced through the blinds, painting stripes across the floor. The stripes moved when I wasn't looking directly at them. The child thing sat cross-legged in one of the moonlight bars. It had no eyes, but holes where eyes should be. It raised a hand, too many joints, and waved. I waved back before I could stop myself. It tilted its head, then crawled forward on all fours, movements jerky like a film with frames missing. When it reached the couch, it stopped. Up close, I saw it wasn't solid. It was absinthe shaped like a child, edges fraying into nothing. "What do you want?" My voice cracked. It opened its mouth. No sound came out, but I felt the question in my bones, "Are you ready?" I laughed until I cried. Ready for what? The tall one appeared behind it, looming. The squat one oozed from the ceiling like ink. They formed a triangle around me. I should have been terrified, but the fever had burned fear out of me. What was left was curiosity, sharp and reckless. "Show me," I said. The child thing reached out and touched my forehead. Its finger was cold as dry ice. The room folded in on itself. Suddenly I was standing in the alley behind the building. It was daytime, but wrong, colors too bright, sky the color of a bruise. The laundromat's back door hung open. Inside, rows of washers spun clothes that weren't clothes, photographs, letters, baby teeth. A woman I didn't know stood at a dryer, pulling out handfuls of ash. She looked up and smiled with too many teeth. I turned to run and found myself back on the couch. The shadows were closer now, touching. The tall one's hand on my shoulder, weightless but undeniable. The child thing curled against my side like a cat. The squat one pulsed in time with my heartbeat. I understood then. They weren't here to hurt me. They were here because I was slipping. The fever had opened a door, and they'd walked through. Not ghosts. Not demons. Something older. Patient. I closed my eyes. I'm not ready, I whispered. The child thing made a sound like wind through dead leaves. The tall one stroked my hair with fingers that weren't fingers. The squat one wrapped around my feet, warm now, almost comforting. Time passed. Maybe hours. Maybe days. I floated in and out. Sometimes I was in my body, burning. Sometimes I was elsewhere, walking through versions of my life I hadn't lived yet. In one, I was old, sitting on a porch with a dog that had my mother's eyes. In another, I was a child again, hiding under the kitchen table while my parents screamed. The shadows were always there, guiding or following, I couldn't tell. At some point, the fever broke. I woke clear-headed, sheet-soaked but cool. Sunlight, real sunlight, poured through the window. The apartment smelled of coffee from downstairs. My phone, newly charged, showed 5 missed calls from my sister and a text from work. Take all the time you need. I sat up slowly. The shadows were gone. Or mostly. In the corner of my eye, a flicker. A suggestion of movement. But when I turned, nothing. I showered for the first time in a week. The hot water stung, then soothed. In the mirror, my eyes were my own again. I made toast and ate it standing over the sink, butter dripping onto my wrist. That night, I left the lights on. I slept with the TV murmuring infomercials. No shadows came. But in the morning, I found a handprint on the bathroom mirror, small, like a child's, made of condensation though the shower hadn't run. In the center, a single word, soon. I didn't call anyone. What would I say? Instead, I cleaned the apartment top to bottom. I opened windows and let the October air scrub out the sickness. I bought groceries, real food. I charged my phone and answered my sister's texts with lies about the flu. But I started leaving the hallway light on. And sometimes, when I pass the mirror too quickly, I catch a glimpse of something behind me, tall, thin, patient. It doesn't scare me anymore. It feels like a promise. Last week, I found a Polaroid on the kitchen counter. I don't own a Polaroid camera. The photo shows my bedroom at night, the one with the flickering street lamp. I'm asleep in bed, quilt pulled to my chin. Around me, 3 shapes keep watch. The child thing sits at my feet. The squat one hovers near the ceiling. The tall one stands by the window, one hand raised as if in blessing. On the back, in handwriting that isn't mine, "We'll be here when you need us." I keep the photo in my wallet now. Some nights, when the apartment feels too big and the silence too loud, I take it out and look. The shadows haven't returned in force. But I know they're waiting. Patient as stone. And sometimes, when I'm drifting off to sleep, I feel the child thing curl against my side, weightless but there. I don't pull away. I'm better now. Mostly. The doctor said it was a severe viral infection, nothing permanent. My temperature's normal. I go to work, I laugh at jokes, I buy groceries like a person who isn't half in another world. But I leave the hallway light on. Just in case. And every October, when the sky hangs low and the air smells of leaves and bleach, I feel them stirring. A ripple at the edge of vision. A whisper in the pipes. They're checking in. Making sure I'm still here. I always am. For now.